Okay, it's 6:01 p.m. on October 29th. Hi, everybody. My name is Barb Boschert. I'm the Community Involvement Coordinator in the Remedial Project section at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. You are attending the Miracle Mile Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund WQARF site in Tucson. We're going to present what's been going on the last few years at the site. It's nice to see some familiar names here on our participant list. Thank you all for coming. Just a quick note, during the meeting, if you have any questions, you can ask in any number of ways. You can raise your hand, you can put a question in chat, or feel free to unmute yourself. And when there's an appropriate pause, just go ahead and ask Josh a question. Should be a pretty easy presentation, but we want to make sure all your questions are answered. Also presenting tonight is Josh Campbell. He's the project manager for the site. So he'll come up in a minute. So let's get right into our first presentation. Also let you know this meeting is being recorded. It'll be posted on our website, hopefully tomorrow, for sure by Friday. If you do need a recording of it and it hasn't been gotten on the website yet, give me a shout, call me, or email me. I'll be glad to send you a copy, as well as the presentation will be on the website. So the first thing, just a real quick shout out. As I said before, I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but we would love it if everyone who could joined our community advisory board. We're down to 5 people on this board, which is the minimum number of required participants that we have on a community advisory board in Arizona. Having only 5 people makes it hard to schedule a community advisory board meeting because we need a quorum of attendees. That would be 3 out of 5, a majority. And sometimes when we get this small, it's actually harder, believe it or not, to get a majority. So that's why tonight is a public meeting. We've got busy lives and we weren't able to find a date that worked for everybody that we could get a majority of our community advisory board members to come, although we do have some here at the meeting, like I said, and thank you for coming. But we need more. So if you don't know, community advisory boards just get together once a year, sometimes more than once a year, to hear a presentation about what's going on at this WQARF site. We update our community advisory boards at least quarterly via email about what's going on. We can have as many meetings as we need. It doesn't have to be one a year. But what we really ask is that our community advisory boards take the information and disseminate it within their community, in their workplaces, to their neighbors and friends, so that the community has some more awareness of what's going on with environmental cleanups in their area. And that's about it. That's my spiel for the night. There we can get more information on the Miracle Mile WQARF site at this link here. And here's my contact information. This presentation will also be on the website if you need to see it. Feel free to hand out this information to anybody you may know that might be interested. On our website at this link here for Miracle Mile, there is a link for with a community advisory board application. So you can send that to anybody that might be interested. And that is it, unless anybody has any questions on CABs. All right, and then let me go ahead and pull up Mr. Josh's presentation. Hold on, there we go. And I'm going to introduce you to Josh Campbell. He's the project manager for this project. Go ahead, Josh.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Josh Campbell. I've been with the Remedial Projects Unit here at ADEQ for a little over 5 years now. I've been working on Miracle Mile for, I want to say 1.5 to 2 years, having taken it over from Hazel Cox, who was working on it before me. And it's one of our geographically largest sites, has been geographically largest plume, and one of our older sites. I think it was initially identified back in the 80s or early 90s with a broad spectrum survey across that section of town. It also identified the Silver Bell landfill and a couple other random sources of pollution. But I get ahead of myself. Thank you, Barb. Um, uh, so it was initially listed in, as you can see, 98. Remedial investigation took a while to get off the ground. And currently we issued the proposed remedial action plan about 4 years ago. It's been Miracle Mile's been kind of waiting for other sites ahead of it in line for the determination of responsible parties. But that process is starting now. So we can, once that determination of responsible parties is completed by the lawyers, we'll be trying to issue the ROD, the record of decision, at approximately the same time. Hopefully this fiscal year, fingers crossed. But more likely it'll happen next fiscal year. And once that's done, we'll start the remediation in earnest. That being said, we've already done some early remedial actions at the site. Actually, a number of remedial actions have been conducted at the site. So what are we looking at? Contaminants concerned at the site are trichloroethylene or trichloroethene and chromium. Yes. So the area in general, the south end of the plume is an industrial area, and there's multiple manufacturers, a couple of defense manufacturers. There was a Coca-Cola bottling plant there that had a machine shop for fleet maintenance. There was the chromium source, most likely from a chrome plating facility in the area. And those contaminants of concern have affected the groundwater in the area, and there's still contaminants present in the soil, which releases soil vapor. So those are our primary impacted media. Like I said before, this is a big plume. It's almost 2 miles long. So towards the source area, we're still seeing concentrations of TCE as high as 370 micrograms per milliliter. That's parts per billion, which is, to put that in context, our aquifer water quality standard for TCE is 5 micrograms per liter. So we're well above that standard. That's not the case across the whole plume. We see a strong drop off, as I'll show you later. Currently, we are monitoring the groundwater, try to make it annually to every 2 years, biannually. And currently our schedule is once per year for groundwater monitoring events. We also have 2 mobile home parks at the end of the plume that are we're actively treating those the wells on those mobile home parks with granular activated carbon systems and monitoring those on a monthly basis. And again, the potential receptors, the possible not targets, that's not the right, the receptors who could be affected are public and private water supply wells. The city of Tucson has had a well at the far north of the plume that has long since been deactivated. Let me see. Oh yeah, okay, that's right. I have other wells or other slides. So yeah, you can see down here on the south end. Actually, no, you guys can't see my cursor. The south end, those purple polygons, those are the potential responsible parties, the source areas for this plume. And with a plume this big, it's safe to assume that the contamination happened a long time ago and in large quantities, which is how we get this long, broad plume. You get the next slide, Arm. So you can see we've got this is results from our latest groundwater sampling effort, and you can see we got the highest concentrations down here. And I'm sorry, I rotated the image. It's just such a long plume. It's hard to fit all on one page, but down here to the right, uh, you've got our highest concentrations, especially around IR8 and IRA 11. And this is in the regional aquifer. These are our regional wells. I didn't put in a slide for the perched aquifer wells, but we're seeing higher concentrations in the perched, but far less mobility. The plume in the perched is it barely extends past IRA 11. So the perched is less of a concern than the regional at this particular site as far as treatability and impact. And I mentioned before the Tucson water well, that's towards the left end of the plume, Z002A. That's the closed Tucson water well. And up there, you can also see the North Cholla and Silver Cholla MHPs. Those are the two mobile home parks where we're treating the water before it's used. And those concentrations are before treatment. Since we installed treatment, the water coming into those mobile home parks has fallen below the standard. We're still treating there just in case for whatever reason the concentration, the plume shifts or whatever, and the concentration might spike up there. So as long as we're still working on the site, I think we're probably going to be treating those for a while. You get the next slide, Barb. So I mentioned early response actions. With the site this old, we've had a lot of opportunity and a lot of time to, make early remediation efforts before actually settling on the rod. Not even the earliest of these. This is only the most recent ERAs that we've done at the site. There's been others before this. I think there's almost a dozen ERAs that have been done at the site at this point. But the spring joint source property was the likely source of chromium. And there's no easy way, chromium being a metal, there's not an easy way to get that out of soil. So the ERA there was to basically pave their dirt parking lot. And this prevents water from infiltrating, and it immobilizes the chromium and prevents that chromium from getting down into the water from the soil column. As I mentioned before, we've got the GAC, the activated carbon filter systems at the mobile home parks. And this past fiscal year, we conducted a second soil vapor test, or soil vapor extraction pilot test at the Darling property. The previous one had been done in, I believe it was 2014, almost 10 years ago. And that was a very limited one to test the applicability of SVE at the site. There had been just two wells, and they weren't really looking at the extraction rate. They were mostly looking at connectivity in the soil, studying the physical parameters of the soil to test the applicability of SVE. From a physical standpoint, this past year ran the SVE pilot, a second SVE pilot test, installed some more wells to look at how much of the TCE we could actually get out of the soil. And if you look at the mass removal column in this chart, or in this table rather, you can see that total, or the mass removed in fiscal year 24, that is almost exclusively from that pilot test. We ran that system for a combined total of about 2 weeks. It was 3-4 days of pressure testing between the wells, and then 10 days of running the system. And in those combined 14 days, we got over 24 pounds of contaminant out of the soil, which was huge. So I'm looking forward to getting this year's groundwater results and see if we made a noticeable impact on the perched aquifers concentrations, which I've seen happen at other sites. I know there's a tenuous link between soil vapor and groundwater concentrations, but I think I'm hoping that we knock some of that groundwater or knock the groundwater concentration down at the source property. Um, and so can you go back to the previous slide, Barb? Um, so IRA 19 is right up. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's right. It's a perch aquifer well, but it's down here by IRA 8. Um, and then the other two on that were in the regional aquifer. Yeah, so we're I mean, even without any active remediation, we're seeing the concentrations fall. Can you go back to the next one, Barb? Yeah. Mm. We're seeing concentrations fall in a lot of the wells across the site from year to year. It bounces around. I think a lot of that depends on water levels. I haven't done the math on that yet, but I think as the water level changes, you'll see concentrations rise and fall in groundwater as flushing occurs. But I haven't verified that yet. You get the next slide. And this is showing the relative locations of the most recent ERAs. Um, again, the mobile home parks up to the north, and then the SV pilot system at the Darling property and the asphalt cap at Spring Joint. Thank you. This is a few more details on the SVE pilot study. We did it in October of 23, last fiscal year. And we had a couple of wells from the previous pilot study, and we added 2 more extraction wells and 2 more basically pressure monitoring points to test the transmissivity of the air pressure through the soil. So yeah, it was 3 days of pressure testing to get us the numbers that we needed to do calculations about what is transmissivity, how the air pressure changes between wells. Like if you apply vacuum to one well, how that affects the other wells. It basically shows the radiuses of influence based on the pressure applied by the SVE system. And then following the pressure testing, we ran it solid for 10 days and pulled those 24 pounds of TCE, which was I've never seen any concentrations or that much mass come out of so few wells so quickly. It was pretty astounding. So once we get the ROD signed and full remediation implemented, SVE at this property is definitely going to be a big part of that. It's going to be for reducing the massive contaminant at the source properties. I think SVE is going to play a huge role. And then after those 10 days of operation, we removed the above ground equipment. This is just a fenced compound next to the parking lot at the Darling property, and all this stuff was removed afterwards. But we have the wells in place. Like I said before, the PRAP was published in 2020. It outlined 3 menus of remediation options. SVE, soil vapor extraction at the source properties, obviously. O&M on the wellhead treatment systems that's at the mobile home parks. Pump and treat is a possibility. It's included on 2 of the menus in the PRAP, and that is where we're removing groundwater with extraction wells, treating it in an above ground treatment system, and then pumping it back into the ground. And that's something that we are going to try to avoid if we can, because it is very expensive to build and maintain. And if we can get the same bang for a couple more bucks or a couple fewer bucks, we'll probably skip PNT. That being said, if it turns out that it's necessary, we'll probably bite the bullet and go for it. Like I mentioned, the soil cap at the Spring Joint facility will be maintained in perpetuity, or at least until we can figure out some other way to get that or remove the threat of the chromium to groundwater in the area. and of course, we'll continue monitoring groundwater, the concentrations of contaminants in the groundwater, for, I believe the PRAP, I think it said 30 years. That's our standard, for most, well, all the wharf sites I worked on. That's our standard conceit is 30 years of monitoring, for budgeting reasons. Um, but that being said, if we see concentrations drop off and we meet the aquifer water quality standard before those 30 years, we'll, stop monitoring and delist the site before that 30 years has expired. Next. So what are we doing next? Like I said, we'll continue O&M on that soil cap. We'll keep monitoring and operating those wellhead treatment systems at the mobile home parks. Continue with annual groundwater sampling. And sometime very soon, coming to an inbox near you. Hopefully we'll get that record of decision out hopefully before the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah, Josh, can I just point out, in case
Yes.
anybody doesn't know, our fiscal year ends June 30th.
Yes.
So he said maybe this fiscal year might be next fiscal year, which would start July 1st of 2025.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Good note. Okay. And yeah, that's all I've got. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
This is
Ollie.
Jalal Mahmoudi from
Oh.
Tucson Water.
Yes, sir.
I heard you talk about a chrome plating facility,
Yes.
and so that makes me think of PFAS. Have you looked for PFAS at all out there?
Yes, we did sample PFAS at, I think I got 6 or 7 wells out there. But that I haven't gotten validated results yet.
Okay.
Like we literally did that in August. Was it August? No. Yeah, I guess it was August. Jeez. Yes. So I have results. They're not validated yet, but yes, I have similar concerns. And we ended up checking for PFAS across all the wharf sites. So yes, yeah, I'll have do you know who at Tucson Water would want to see those?
I would, for one.
Okay.
Probably Chad Lapora,
Okay.
a couple others. I could maybe send you a list.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
We're very interested at Metro Water in seeing those results as well.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it'd be.
We have a production well immediately down gradient to that plume just on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
And so our riverside well is of concern with regard to PFAS, additional PFAS, as well as TCE.
Right.
And so my follow-on question to Jalal's is, what about 1,4 dioxane?
We haven't looked for it.
Okay, because that is in the area, and it all usually accompanies TCE. So not a regulated compound, except that it has greatly impacted other wharf sites in the past.
Right. Yeah,
and
I
into
know
the
it's
future.
been a big deal at TARP and Air Force Plant 44 and South Shannon.
Yes.
So
So we would be interested in seeing, some results on 1,4, but definitely when you get validated PFAS results, could you send those to me?
if my boss says it's okay, then yeah. I mean, that being said, not everything we do, but 99% of what we do is going to end up being in the public domain. I'm not sure what our current outlet for PFAS data is. I'll verify that I can release it directly. If not, somebody at the agency will be able to release it to you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh, yep. Okay, so my boss says, yes, we can send PFAS data to interested folks once results have been validated. Easy enough. Okay.
Yeah, and you can also, anybody can reach out to me too if you need anything. And Josh, you can't get hold of Josh, feel free to reach out to me as well. I'll get it to the right person. Any other questions? Comments? No?
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for coming. This will all be on the website, probably not tomorrow, probably closer to Thursday, Friday. I'm happy to send them to you before that, though. If you would like them, just email me. I'll send you them tonight if you need them.
Barb, can
And
you give me some criteria for cab member qualifications?
yep, you simply have to live, work, own property, or have some interest in the area of the cleanup site.
Okay, because what I think I will talk with folks at Flowing Wells, and I will talk with folks at Tucson Water and see if we can identify some residents and try and shake the tree and get some membership up in this cab, and as well as South Shannon.
Yeah,
Those are the two that are of concern to Metro Water, but I think that we might be able to lend a hand. We should be able to lend a hand and see if we can't identify some residents and customers and professionals that could try and fill out these cabs so that we don't have what's the word?
just
When there's not enough members. When you don't have enough.
Dearth? Is it a
Huh?
dearth? Is it a dearth?
No. The when you can't take any votes. Quorum.
Quorum.
oh, quorum. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
A quorum.
Magic
Yeah.
word. Yes. So I know that in other situations, quorum is hard to get, and it would be nice if we had enough members to fill out and make sure that we meet quorums when it's time for these meetings to be held. So.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, we not only want our cab members' help in getting the information out to the community, we want to hear from the cab members of what their community is saying to them, if anything, about the site. So it's always helpful.
Before COVID, we would have a fair amount of attendance. It just seemed like COVID just knocked everything out, and have to start all over again. I'll see what I can do. I'm part of the Flowing Wells Neighborhood Coalition, so I'll see what I can do with that as well. And our membership there went down as well. So
right.
it just seems like that's just really beat everybody up.
Yeah, and like I said, I've got a couple of cabs like this across the state. I'm hoping to spend some time getting the word out to try to get more cab members. It can be a tough job, it's helpful to have people there on the ground in the community that are there all the time, to help me out. Because we definitely need to get some more people interested. And if not, we'll continue to have regular meetings virtually, maybe even in person sometime, to continue to update the community as to what's going on. All the stuff will still be on the website. We'll still, everything will still be public and available. It's just, the cabs are just another tool to get the information out there. So it'll still be all available. We would just like to continue to beef up that tool, which is the cabs, as we can. So anything you can do is much appreciated. Something else that you may not know is our email system for notifying the public about the release of reports or permits or anything to do, news releases, anything to do with ADEQ has recently changed. And people who might have been getting emails for a very long time they've started to go out this week is another set of emails saying, hey, we're changing our systems. If you want to stay on this email list, you need to re-sign up. So if you haven't seen it yet in your email box, look for it, because if, for instance, if you get regular emails about what's going on at Miracle Mile when there's a report released or there's this meeting or whatever, you will no longer get those unless you re-sign up in our new system. So I expect, for instance, say if we send things out to 1,000 emails, I expect that to drop by quite a bit. For one reason being that a lot of emails are dead or people are gone or no longer interested. But there may be people out there that don't see that, and then they stop getting these emails and they don't know why. It's because we're switching systems. So for all of you on the call, make sure to keep an eye out for that in your email and go ahead and choose which alerts you want to get from ADQ in our new system as soon as you can. I think it's going live next month. So after next middle of November, you won't get these emails unless you sign up. So that's another reason we want to get the word out, is so that people can then sign up on our new system to just get email alerts about things that are happening on environmental cleanups in their neighborhoods. But I appreciate any help y'all can provide very much. And please reach out to me or send anybody to me or send me their name. I'm happy to call anybody or email them myself. Just send me anything. And
I'll add that Metro Water will always be happy to host meetings if a more logical place doesn't manifest itself. I mean, we're a little geographically removed from Miracle Mile, but really we're just kind of up the road from there. Mm-hmm. So our boardroom, I can make that available, and it has AV and you know, everything that would be needed for CAB meetings. So if there isn't another logical place, if we get to the point in time when we are meeting in person, Metro Water can gladly, host CAB meetings for these couple of cabs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that very much. All right. Anything else anybody would like to discuss? Okay, well, if you sign up for our new email list and you get information about the site and you have any questions, give me a shout or Josh, and we'll be happy to help you out. And hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barb.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.